Paul Conrev is one of those diecasts that I feel is almost always out in the Cars diecast line. Since his first release in 2018, he's been out as a single, in 2-packs, and in multi-packs several times. He also has a variety of different variants, including a racing tractor that's been released twice, a beach racer, a rocket racer, and he's one of very few next gens to have his own dedicated color changer, which has been released on several occasions. He's also one of only a couple next gens to have his own hauler in the diecast line. So yeah, Mattel really does seem to like Paul Conrev for whatever reason. With all those releases, it might be hard to remember that Paul Conrev actually started his life as a multi-pack exclusive. That's right, back in early 2018, this guy was exclusive to a 5-pack. That's how I got my copy, but since then, he's really exploded outwards into several different releases. Easily one of the most frequently used cars that started off as a multi-pack first look release, I think. And while some people may have forgotten Paul's roots coming from a 5-pack, I never will. Because when I bought that 5-pack, I got a spare Chick Hicks, and I cut off the headset so I could have a headset-less Cars 3 Chick Hicks. And while that's still in my collection to this day, I accidentally cut my finger while cutting his headset off, and it bled a whole lot. And I had a bandage on my finger for like weeks on camera afterwards. So I'll never forget the Paul Conrev 5-pack. Never. Hello everybody, and welcome back to yet another review and to another birthday request here on the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the one and only Paul Conrev, a request from Polish Toy Gamer 14. Thank you so much for the request as always, and I hope you're having a fantastic birthday. Now, Paul Conrev is an item, like I said at the start of the review, that I feel is always out, and I feel like I'm always seeing him. He hasn't been out for a few years, I've realized. I checked before filming, but you know, there are so many variants of him. I was like, surely I've reviewed Paul Conrev several times before, right? And while I have reviewed his variants over the years, the racing tractor, the rocket racer, the beach racer, what I was shocked to see when I searched through my channel was that I've actually only ever reviewed regular old Paul Conrev once, back when I got him in early 2018. This is my second ever review of Paul Conrev, which is honestly crazy to think about for just how much I've seen him and just how many variants he has. Well, welcome Paul Conrev. Congratulations. You get to be reviewed by a several years post-puberty tie instead of a several months pre-puberty tie. Let's get started. Paul is, of course, one of the Danny Swervez model next gens. It feels like it's been quite a while since I've reviewed a next gen. He has this very interesting white color scheme that's actually kind of shiny. It has a bit of a sheen to it, which is pretty cool. It's definitely a bit more of an off-white than a flat white, like something like the Apple car would have. On his hood, we have the bumper save logo with a B as well as a $sign in the middle. I always thought that was a really clever look. Always thought that was a pretty smart way to do it, although I will say it is kind of odd to have the red and blue parts there. It may make it kind of hard for you to realize that that's a B, but that is, of course, what the logo is. Bumper save logo there. As far as next gens go, you know, a lot of them have sort of that mission statement to super oversimplify the designs, you know, do the old Cracker Barrel logo rehash to the Piston Cup racers. And while Paul is easily one of the cars that looks the least like his previous counterpart, Paunchy Wipeout, I think he really does work, and his graphic design makes a whole lot of sense. You keep the money motif from Bumper Save, but you remove the sort of price tag logo that Paunchy had, and you make kind of a more modern, almost digital banking look. He has all of these S's all over him, not $signs, just regular old S's, of course, for the save in Bumper Save, but you can see another one of the logos that are on his hood there on the back. You got a red stripe, another red stripe there, and this blue and white section with a light blue stripe there, of course, splitting the area. Although you actually don't have another blue stripe here, you just have kind of a little black outline when the other red area starts. I really like his wheels, a nice shade of red with a white outline. It would be cool if a bit more of this guy were red, honestly. You'll notice that they never make red Piston Cup cars because McQueen is red. That's why, like, none of the next gens are yellow because Cruise is yellow. They want to make sure you could, you know, follow the lead character. But, you know, it always makes me wonder, you know, what would this item look like if you had a bit more of a color we don't see on Piston Cup racers often? I do like the color scheme for Paul a whole lot. I've said in a lot of my next gen reviews how a lot of next gens feel very samey in terms of color scheme. A lot of them are blue or green or purple. So Paul, yeah, has some blue on him, but he is a standout in my opinion with that nice shade of white. Bumper save logo there on the back. Honestly, this font's really kind of, I don't know, it looks kind of tacky to me. I feel like it's a little corny. It's very bold. I feel like it doesn't really match the other font on him, but I don't care. I'm not a font expert. Guys, I'm not, okay? Let me tell you a story, okay? I was once forced to watch for school last year, junior year of college, an entire 2-hour documentary on the history of the Helvetica font. It was the most boring thing I have ever seen. And I had to watch it for a communication class. Also in that class, we watched the Barbie movie and the Breakfast Club. So, you know, like, what was that? Why did I have to watch that? Anyway, what I'm saying is I don't care about, there are a lot of people that get super nitpicky about fonts. I'm not one of them. On the back, we have the bumper safe logo again, number 90 there, some blue stripes as well as his rookie stripes, backlights, and you can actually see that he does have some glitter in that white paint, which you could see all over him if you look a bit closer. There is a look at the other side that is actually a bit different. The S here is not the same. Actually, none of the S's are the same, so that's nice. I never really realized that. I always say that I'm a really big fan of asymmetrical piston cup racer designs, and it's not something we get too often, so it is pretty cool to see. Since Paul is all white, unfortunately, he has a bit of black paint from one of my customs on him, just a couple marks of it. I wonder how or when that happened. Paul was used in Cars Adventures for a very long time as a pretty significant character. He defected from the Evil Next Gen group alongside Jackson and, was it Chris Roman, right? So I used Paul for quite a while. Then he kind of faded into the background of the series, but he was a fun character when we used him. I can only assume he got that from a Cars Adventures scene, or perhaps simply from being in a box with some of my custom painted cars. Nowadays, I always make sure to keep the customs in a separate place because my black paint does wear off on some of them. You can see that on some of my die casts, like Cal there. Kirsten Marshall has a bunch of black paint on her for some reason. So yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching this review of Paul Conrev. And once again, a very happy birthday to you, Polish Toy Gamer. Hope you have a great day. I had a whole lot of fun taking a look at Paul Conrev, an item that, again, I feel like is kind of always around. So I'm always happy when I take an item that I see and I'm like, oh yeah, it's that guy again. And I get to talk about it and say things I've never really said before. Congratulations, Paul Conrev. You've been reviewed by Post Puberty Ty. I'll see you guys next time. Bye now.